Good morning all. Councillors, can I have your attention please? The meeting has started. Councillor Coker, Councillor MacDonald, the meeting started, thank you. Good morning everyone. Welcome to the council meeting for Wednesday the 12th of August. Please join me in standing for the open karakia. Ho ki te uru, whakatakata ho ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā tara tara ki tai, e he aki ana ti atakura, he tio, he hoka, he hei hu, ti hei mori ora. We'll start that again. Good morning everyone. Thank you for being here today. I've got some apologies from the Mayor for lateness. He'll be joining us at about 11 o'clock this morning, we think, and Councillor Donovan for absence. I also note that I have Councillor Fields joining us by AV. Good morning, Councillor Fields. I have an apology from Councillor Scandrett for possible early departure. I've just also been notified that Councillor McClellan will be joining us by AV this morning. I've approved that attendance by AV, but I'd like to remind Councillor McClellan that there is a requirement that you let the Chair or the Secretariat know 24 hours in advance if you'll be attending via Teams and not in person. So I hope you can hear me. I haven't got him online yet. I can't see that he's here. So perhaps if we can note the record that he is meant to be attending via Teams, but he's not currently online. Thank you. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Peters. Thank you, Mr Hertz-Jardine. So thank you. Starting with declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations of interest this morning? Thank you very much. We have a resolution to include a supplementary report, which is item number 22 on the agenda. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to accept the public excluded item 22 supplementary report? Thank you, Yanni. Thank you, Nathaniel. All those in favour? Aye, thank you. And we will now move into our public forums. Our first person, Ruby Grace Miller, is not here this morning. She's cancelled her appearance, but I'd like to welcome Russell Price. Falcon Price. Good morning, Russell. I understand you're a first-time appearance before us today, so welcome and come up to the table.
That's correct, thank you. Oh, my first time.
Thank you for taking the time to come and see us today, Russell. You just take your time. I understand you're here to talk to us about the verbal abuse experienced by people with disabilities. You have
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Yes, you've got about 5 minutes to chat to us.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Kia ora, Mayor, councillors and community board members. My name is Russell Falcon Price. I am a Christchurch resident. I have an intellectual disability and I am an independent disability advocate. Excuse me. I am standing here today to shine a light on a serious safety issue in our city. Right now, in our parks, on our buses and inside our public bars, able-bodied people are verbally abusing people with special needs. This cruelty is unacceptable. No citizen should ever be made to feel unsafe, degraded or targeted in Christchurch simply because of who they are. Personally, I have the confidence, the strength and the knowledge to step in safely and handle these abuses when I see it happening. But many people with special needs cannot fight back, cannot speak up and cannot defend themselves. They are being left isolated and terrified in their own communities. Inclusive city is not just about bullying. Not about building wheelchair ramps. It is about social safety. It is about creating an environment where disabled people can live and socialise without the fear of verbal violence. I am calling on the Christchurch City Council to take active responsibility for this. We need community safety initiatives, better driver training on public transport, and strict public campaigns showing that disability harassment will not be tolerated. Furthermore, the council must remind local bars that holding an alcohol licence means keeping a venue safe and welcoming for everyone, including the disability community. I will continue to stand up and use my voice to protect my peers. I ask that this council uses its power to do the same thing. I'll just let out some crucial information. I've left out some crucial information from my prepared speech. I forgot to mention that the verbal abuse also happens in the supermarkets and also the workplaces. I myself am a victim of verbal bullying, and that's what led to my resignation from my previous jobs. Unfortunately, this behaviour seems to be continuing even to this day. Even though I reported this to the management, they just turned a blind eye and refused to do anything about it. That included not speaking to the person who was bullying me. It also made me wonder whether or not they had an anti-bullying system in place, which in my case, I don't believe they did. Thank you for your time.
Thank you,
Talk
Russell.
about butterflies in my stomach.
You spoke very eloquently, and thank you for bringing these important topics to us. You're very brave and courageous for standing up the way that you do for vulnerable people. And thank you for coming in and being courageous to talk to us. I've got a couple of questions from Councillor Harrison Hunt and then Councillor Barber.
Kia ora, Russell. Thank you so much for coming in. I've just got a question around safe spaces. Are there any safe spaces that you think that your community might have within the city?
Well, that depends on what you mean by safe spaces, because the parks are supposed to be safe, but it feels at times that they're not. And as you heard in my speech, it's obvious to me that no one feels safe no matter where they go.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Barber.
Thank you, Russell. That was fantastic. And thanks for advocating for your community.
I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Kelly.
Oh, nice to meet
It's
you.
a girl's name, but you know.
Yeah, but you're not a lady though, are you?
There's nothing wrong with that. I just wonder, Mr. Chair, if we could actually, I feel really emotional about this. I think we should stand as a symbol of solidarity with these people in our community, just for a few seconds.
I'm happy to do that. Thank you, Councillor Barber.
So, Russell, we stand with you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Barber. That was a nice gesture. Thank you, Russell. Thank you, Russell. I hope that wasn't too daunting. You can step back from the table. So we're now on to public forums from Ngāwai Timu and Moku, who are here to talk to us about Wetlands Grove community and matters relating to Red Zone homeless community and their future. Good morning and
Kia ora.
welcome. Kia ora. Kia ora.
How are we all?
We're very well this morning, thank you.
Oh, that's good.
5 minutes to speak to us, so the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for the time, for giving us to talk here. My name's Moko. It's a short version of my name, and this is Ngā Wai. This submission addresses the Christchurch Red Zone and our community, and specifically impacting of the formal move-on order scheduled to take place on the 28th of February 2027. The Red Zone land designed designated unsuitable for rebuilding following the 2010 and 2011 earthquakes, has over time become a place of last resort for people like us without housing. Those also excluded from the rental market are living in vehicles, caravans, and we're living in makeshift shelters and unable to access state or community housing. This is not a choice or convenience, it's a response to the systematic lack of options. The up-and-coming move-on order removes even the precarious foothold with no confirmed alternative housing or support plan in place. This submission outlines that situation. Pretty much a breakdown of our Red Zone homeless is the Red Zone compromises thousands of hectares of land held largely by the Crown and managed by Kanoa, a regional economic development and investment agency. While some areas are being repurposed for public and ecological use, large sections remain vacant, unmonitored and de facto home to a growing population of homeless people. Many have lived here for months or years, individuals, couples and some families, all facing barriers like low income, poor health, lack of documentation or discrimination in housing. Before we moved in, there were no toilets, running water or rubbish collection or emergency services once they knocked over the house. We have since got toilets and thanks to various services who have supported us, we have got showers and whatnot. On the 28th of February, authorities will enforce a formal move-on order requiring all people in informal structures to leave the Red Zone. To date, there has been no public funded or scalable housing response tied to this deadline, no dedicated transitional housing or no secured emergency shelters, and no wraparound support has been committed for this group. The impacts and risks enforcing this order without prior preparation will lead to severe, predictable harm, escalated homeless and development, displacement, I should say, health and safety crises, legal and ethnical breaches, and it's also, of course, cost. It's going to be a big shift. We want to sort of pause and phase enforcement delay only because we need to find that place, that suitable place that we can go. There is a lot of us. We're stretching on 55 permanents, you know. Everything else is come down to, you know, the housing services that are helping us, Housing First, it's Tahi Housing, Kāinga Ora, they're far stretched as it is, as we know. So I believe that if there was a place to go, we're open-minded. We're definitely open-minded. We're all a community of vast people. We have workers, we have families, we have individuals that battle with mental health and different addictions. But I'm here today, and thank you again for this time, just to put our case forward, really. Yeah.
Thank you, Moko. Thank you for coming in to speak with us. And thank you, Ngā Wai, for being there in support. I'm mindful that homelessness is a very complex issue, and they were requiring a lot of collaboration and coordination and multi-agency approach.
Yes.
I've got two questions, one from Tyler and one from Nathaniel, and that's all we'll have time for. Thank you.
Tēnā kōrua.
Tēnā.
I actually met you not long ago
Yes,
with Councillor Hinton and Councillor Donovan.
yes,
And you talked about wider issues around the more, I guess, the housing issues. So, for example, Ngāwai, I think you were describing transitional housing, and you had a lot of appliances. You couldn't store them in that transitional housing. And then that means that you were left with nothing when you're moving into a new place.
yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and why do you think the community is so vast? Why do you think it's so big at the moment? Is that because they feel safer around each other? What is it?
Well,
Give us your perspective on that.
when I was in transition home, I became lonely.
No, I can you please turn? Oh, your microphone. Thank you. Oh,
When I was in transitional home, 2 weeks of being in a 2-bedroom home. 1 bedroom was empty. So I started to buy things for my new home. I bought a freezer and a big coffee table. And then when the transition people saw it, they ground me for having my own stuff in their house. So I wasn't allowed to purchase anything more for that house. It was not to be stored, even though there's a spare bedroom and a big garage that I could have stored. I had come into money, so I started to buy for my home and then found out I couldn't have it there. So loneliness set in was another thing. Taking me away from the community was hard, as I had already joined Kiwi2 for sports and my rehabilitation for an injury that occurred to me 10 years ago. But I also have church meetings, and Gracie is is a church in New Brighton. They've been so wonderful and supportive for us.
thank you, Ngāwai, for speaking so openly to us. We've got one more question from Nathaniel. Thank you.
Thanks so much for coming in. It's more, I think it's a really serious issue, and we need to get ahead of it as council. Can we, from staff, can we get some sort of options report, or if appropriate, a working group on this in the next month or two, so we're not suddenly it's February and we haven't got an answer.
Thank you. Andrew Rutledge is going to address us. Oh,
Can that include elected members as well?
Yes, what I would suggest in the first instance is that we generate a workshop for councillors, a multi-agency workshop, so we get a wide picture of the landscape across Christchurch, and then consider how we might be able to move forward.
Thank you.
thank you for that, and thank you for coming in to see us this morning.
Thank you.
I'd now like to welcome Trudy, who's also coming to speak to us about matters relating to the red zone homeless community. Welcome, Trudy. Good morning. And who have we got beside you there?
My name is John Aramaklu. I'm here to support from the Red Zone community.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us. You've seen how this works. You've got 5 minutes. Thank you.
Kia ora, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is Trudy Burrows. I'm founder and operator of the New Brighton Food Bank. We've just been heading into our 10th year of operating, and so over these years we've got to know the homeless and the rough sleepers pretty well. Today I'm here as part of a team which includes Moko, Fire, John and myself, representing some of those ones down at the Red Zone. We're here today to help start the conversation with Council and others as to where this community can move on come February 27. What is the difference with this particular group at Wetlands Grove, and why are people putting their hand up to help fight for them? Firstly, they've done something other homeless areas have not. They've formed community. It started mainly with Moko being told to go down to the Red Zone, where they are, after spending some time, in fact years, at the pier. Fire and John quickly followed, and they've just kept coming. They've now built a community where people feel like they belong. They feel included. They've formed relationships. They've built trust. They've got purpose. It's a basic human desire to feel a sense of belonging, to have a relationship, to build trust, but most of us take it for granted. This group has shown that these basic needs have been met at this community. And why? It's because they've been there for a time. They've had stability. And it's this stability they need moving forward. They need assurance that wherever they go, they can stay. This group has created like a drug and alcohol-free zone to make people feel safe. Women and children come there because they've heard of this area. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, a government agency dropped off a blind man in his late 70s. They gave him a pup tent, left him there, because they knew Fire and the others would take care of him. But it shouldn't have been up to them. We've lost that blind man at the moment. He was there a few days. He was up the mall, totally drenched, cold. The last few days we haven't seen him, but I think they've taken him in. Last week the head count was 58. And while not all 58 will be part of the group moving on, many will be. So where are they going? At this point, nobody knows. But if nothing is done now, it's a good guess they'll head over to another part of the red zone or the end of your street. So wouldn't it make sense to address the situation now rather than wait again and face it again? So let's talk location. Many of these people whakapapa back to the New Brighton area. So to stay on the east side is an important consideration. The sea is important to them. They know the services, their food sources, their medical services. They're not asking for 5, 4, or even 2-star accommodation, maybe just a piece of land. So we've already got the ball rolling. Currently we have the police, the Home Foundation and others talking with us. We've met them in the last few weeks. While the police and Home Foundation say this is not their normal role, but they're keen to be on board because they want to work with us for the good of these people. We know it's not easy or going to be easy moving forward. Currently there appears to be no options. I recently asked a council advisor, are there any ideas being talked about by council? He said to me, what makes you think it's a council problem? So we're not saying it's your problem because it's not. But we are inviting you to be part of the solution. The task ahead is not to explicitly replicate the current environment there, because we know it's not all roses down there. But let's take time to understand, to look at what's working, what matters most to these people involved, and what elements might work moving forward. The opportunity now is to work together for an achievable path ahead, one that is safe, sustainable, maintains stability, a sense of belonging and connection, but also recognising the practical realities. I just want to finish with a quote from C.S. Lewis. He says, the lot of mankind begins with improving the lot of one's local neighbour. So let us try and be a good neighbour. And I'd just like John to finish.
Yes. Thank you very much for giving us this time. I also have a quote too, and my one is, if you build it, they will come. You have a problem out there on the streets, that's going to get worse. You help us build a place where marginalised people can go to with the support of senior police and everything else, because we're not scared of the police. But we need help. And we don't want to be looked at like the loony left and take other stupid tangents that we don't need. We need a solution for our problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Trudy and John, for coming and talking to us, and thank you for what you do, Trudy, to support the homeless community in New Brighton. And you mentioned the important point about this being a multi-agency response required. And you will have heard in the chamber earlier this morning that we will be having a workshop working with multiple agencies so that we can all work together to try and find a way forward for this vulnerable community. With no further questions, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now I'd like to welcome Ian from the Ferrymead Heritage Park, who's going to come and speak to us. Good morning, Ian.
Morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. I'd like to thank the 3 previous speakers to actually give me some perspective of the challenges that we actually have had at the park. It's very, it just gives perspective which I certainly appreciate. Anyway, today, first of all, no need to check your wallets. No rerun of Oliver Twist, and please, sir, can we have some more? Today, I have 2 items, a thank you and an offer. Gertrude Stein, the American novelist and poet, once said, "Silent gratitude is not much use to anyone." So, item 1, a thank you to Council, and in particular Councillors Hertz, Jardine, Kean and Johansson, and also Council staffers John Filsell and Rose Croslin for the acknowledgement of the hard work which has been put in at Ferrymead Heritage Park from volunteers, staff, trustees and directors over the last 12 months. A lot has been done and there is more to come. Watch this space. Item 2, an offer. Our team would like to offer the park as the ideal venue to host a formal opening of the upcoming Christchurch Heritage Festival in October. The festival is a key part of the Christchurch City Council's Taonga Heritage Strategy. With over 70 events, it is a celebration deserved of our congratulations to the Council, but also an offer of a formal opening that this event deserves. The strategy in Ferrymead Heritage Parks showcases of some of the best collections of heritage exhibits in the country is a match made in whatever your version of heaven is. One small caveat, as the holder of the purse strings and showing the prudent financial management you would expect, a koha from the council towards refreshments would be helpful. Hitatai muka hitatai tangata. Weave together the strands, weave together the people. Let us both continue for many years to weave our strands and people together. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Ian. Do we have any questions? I think that's Nathaniel.
I just want to say thank you so much for coming in. Really good to see it, and excited to see what the future holds for the park.
Absolutely.
Also, just want to add on to your list of thanks, also the Mayor, who I think moved the motion on funding
absolutely.
as well, so it was really appreciated too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nathaniel. And Yanni, we have time for one question from you.
Yeah, thank you. I've been really impressed with the different events that you've been doing. Did you want to give us a little flavour for some of the events that you've got coming up? Or
Absolutely. We've just had the Princesses in the Park, which was hugely successful. We've got a collaboration Halloween event coming up as well. The night markets every month, which will be happening on the first Saturday of every month. And we're in negotiations at the moment with a formal contract to be signed with a day out with Thomas the Tank Engine to appear next year, which has been signed off by Mattel, the American company, toy company, which is great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And one question from Pauline. Oh, that was yours.
Okay.
Thank you very much for taking the time
Thanks,
to come
guys.
and see us. Thank you, Ian.
Okay.
Councillor Cotter's just asked how we pick the offer up.
We'll work with Ferrymead to arrange for that, yeah, and get it sent out.
Thank you for that, Pauline. So with no further public forums, we're on to now 3.2, which is deputations by appointment, and we have no deputations by appointment. So we're now on to item 4, which is presentation of petitions, and I'd like to welcome James Pawson. Thank you for waiting patiently, James. You'll come to present a petition to us to stop the 15 million of the cathedral portion of Christchurch City Council's rate rise.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning. And here on behalf of the 19,500 signatures of the petition. So basically to outline what the petition was for, the Christchurch City Council rates rise includes a staggering $15 million in funding towards the restoration of the Christchurch Cathedral. This initiative is highly controversial, not just because of the rates increase, but due to the fact that the cathedral is owned by the Anglican Church, not the council or the ratepayers. We believe the Christchurch City Council must reconsider its decision to support this particular expenditure in light of its impact on local ratepayers, and there are alternative funding solutions that can be explored. As noted in the Press's article on July 22nd, You decided in May and confirmed in late June to give the cathedral $15 million towards its restoration, despite receiving only 14% support from public during consultation. That alone makes it surprising that this petition has had to be started, but it was clearly ignored. Perhaps a reminder that needs to be front of mind for any future decisions. You are being paid out of public ratepayer money, and the funding decisions you make are spending public ratepayer money. To be clear, I personally don't want to see the cathedral demolished whatsoever. However, something could be achieved far more cost effectively, and I believe preserving the cathedral as a safe, accessible, semi-ruin would be a far more meaningful memorial to our city and the earthquakes we've endured, rather than a complete rebuild. And I supplied some very much AI rendered and very much draft images, but obviously they could be used for a potential basis for further development, perhaps among others. This is the same type of idea that Walker Architects proposed back in August 2017, where they quoted a publicly owned, preserved and accessible archaeological ruin, which in my view, this still remains a good idea and solution today. While it's obviously not on the same historical scale whatsoever, but imagine if iconic landmarks such as the Colosseum in Rome had just been rebuilt as new. All of the historic significance, authenticity and attraction would have been lost. The value that lies in the story it continues to tell, where similarly the cathedral could do the same for Christchurch. Regardless, I believe if any ratepayer or taxpayer funding gets invested in the cathedral project, then there should be a suitable return for the public, whether through ownership, a financial return, or some form of tangible public benefit. There should be some form of return on investment for the city, not just a grant to the Anglican Church. And it's obviously timely and worth noting that it has just been announced that the Catholic Cathedral will be rebuilt without any request for council or government funding. Thank you for the time.
And thank you, James, for taking the time to come and present that petition. Your petition has been accepted by council. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I expect we'll receive some staff advice on the petition.
Correct. Chair, staff will take the petition and come back with some advice.
Thank you very much for that. Now we've got time for
Thank
a couple
you.
of questions. I've got Councillor McClellan online. Thank you. Jake, the floor's yours.
Thanks, James. Good on you for getting stuck into local democracy and, making your view heard. It's pretty admirable. I'm glad to hear that you haven't suggested demolition as an option, where our information is that would A, be illegal and 2, be more expensive than just finishing the job. My question is around your proposed options for what we would do instead. If any of these options ended up costing more than actually just tipping a little bit more in, government would have to come to the party, no money from us would come unless government puts their hand in their pocket too. If that was more expensive, your other options, what would you see us do then?
Thank you. So I think, firstly, yes, some of them are my views, but it's again also on behalf of the 19,500 signatories, so it's certainly not just a personal view. But I think that, look, if they were more expensive, as I said, regardless, any money that goes in, there has to be some form of return on investment, not just a grant. And so what that looked like, I don't know, but that has to be, I believe, investigated, because just handing over money isn't good enough.
It might be good if we could get the information about the financials around the spire and how that sort of would pay for the next stage going forward. That could be useful information for us to have.
Thank you for that, Jake. Bede has said that, given me the thumbs up, that we'll hunt that information out. Thank you for that. Now, I saw Aaron had his hand up, but someone before him, and I'm not sure who that was. Was it Tim? Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much for this. One of the reasons why I voted for the 15 was that it wasn't guaranteed because it was hand in hand with the government. And I totally agree that the Anglican Church should stand up, totally agree, but it's kind of went to court, etc., as you well know. My stimulus for it was, and I really like your line about there should be a payback in some way, shape or form, the stimulus generated around by the land being developed around the square would be well and around, 10 million or something in rates over the next however many years. That was the stimulus why I voted for it, because we've been continually told by commercial real estate around the central city that is the current site is a hindrance to development.
Thank you, Tim, for sharing your thoughts. We're not in debate. Is there a question?
I just finished as you were talking. I just said, what is your opinion on that?
Thank you.
Thank you for interrupting me.
I knew there was a question there somewhere. Thank you, Tim.
No,
James.
that's okay. Yeah, and I think, to be honest, making a decision and using the excuse that it's based on government funding, making their decision as well, I think regardless, as I said, for both of them, whether it's ratepayer and or taxpayer money, isn't good enough just to give away. I think, yes, absolutely leaving it as it is a hindrance, but to rebuild it as new and give that money away without any return is not going to bring money back to the city. And I think something like this, or whatever money goes into it, as long as there's some form of ownership back to the public, then you're going to get that same, encouragement of people to come in. And I would argue that something like this on the screens, where people can actually walk through and have a look and remember the earthquakes and what the city's been through, is better than a closed door church, which is essentially only not only open to, but certainly only inviting to people who are going to attend on Sunday or whenever they want to.
Thank you, James. One final question from Aaron. Thank you, Aaron.
Yeah. Just for your clarification, that building was open 7 days a week to the public.
Yeah,
the public
totally.
use it all the time.
But they don't use it 7 days a week at all, so they wouldn't.
Who, the public?
Yeah.
Well, the public did.
I think you'll find that it was one of the most visited attractions in the city.
Yeah. I believe it's north of 1 million visitors a year went into the building. But that aside, on historic places like the one in the square, and you mentioned the Colosseum, which is good because it recently had 50 million euros spent on it, on cleaning and some strengthening work. So these places all around the world get that sort of money, and that's how this council made that decision, is around our history. And the story wasn't told very well by the media on the economics. Tim raised it, but there's 14 sites around the square that have not been redeveloped because it's been held up.
Aaron, I think I need to show some even-handedness here. I can see I'm getting the side eye from Tim for shutting him down. So is there a question in this?
Well, it's been a very tough decision for this council to get through.
So is the question is, do you appreciate it's a tough decision?
Okay, I'll be really blunt. Around the amount of misinformation around the building, were you aware of the economics around the square when you put the petition together, or was it just purely around no ratepayer money going into historic sites?
Thank you.
So it's about public money being used for something that isn't publicly owned. So are we just going to dish out public money to private buildings that have used their insurance money but now need more to do something else, or are we going to now go to the Catholic cathedral and offer to provide them money even though they haven't requested it? I think yes, the economics. I completely understand and agree. It don't want it demolished, don't want it left like it is. But I think there would be far more cost-effective solutions to do something more valuable. And again, I think any money that the public put in, there should be some form of proper return on investment.
The 10 million a year in rates around the square is a good return.
Thank you, James. You could consider a future in politics. I think you diverted the question particularly well and came back to your key message. Thank you for that. I appreciate that this is an important topic, and I've had Councillor Moore ask for one final question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You've taken the time to come in and represent the views of 19,500 people, and what you've got in return is copped a bunch of questions expecting you to be an expert on every single aspect of the square and the decision and this economics and that.
Councillor Moore, is there a question here?
Yeah, do you think that we've shown the respect that we should have to listening to 19,500 people, which is what you've done here today and brought to us?
Look, it's not about whether I'm respected for coming in or not. I think it's clearly got people's backs up for the decisions they've made, and I think with the questions that I've received, yes, I'm no expert and I haven't come in as an expert. I'm talking again on behalf of the signatories, and I just think that there needs to be further investigation to a solution.
Thank you, James. You've managed the questions very eloquently today, and you've heard staff confirm that they will give us some advice on the petition. So thank you for bringing that to us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, so we are now moving on to confirmation of previous minutes for item 5 and 18. Can I please have a mover and a seconder to confirm the open and the PX minutes from 1 July council minutes, please? Thank you, Nathaniel. Thank you, David. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. So we're now moving on to items 6, 7 and 8, which are Community Board Part A reports. And I'd like to remind you that the Community Board presented at the 4th August Council meeting and talked to these associated Part A reports. And as I understand it, these are retrospective reports. So welcome, Jacob and Stephen, if you'd like to talk us through first item number 6. Thank you.
Okay. So through the chair, item 6, Sparks Road corridor. As you've pointed out, this does relate to subdivision works where they're filling in the gaps for cycle lanes. Just to note, the Community Board have already proved all that they would under delegation, and all that's been asked of you as elected members here is to approve the cycle lanes under your delegation. Would you like us to move on to item 7? Or do you want to do it individually for each one?
I think we'll do them individually because each one requires to be moved and seconded. Thank you. So, Councillor Moore has got a question.
Yeah, just question number 6, and 7 and 8 are retrospective approvals, so fairly more straightforward.
Yeah.
Are you able to give an update on the shoulder?
I understand that's programmed in for the week after next. So that,
Is it?
the hardening and widening of that shoulder should happen at the end of the month.
Bloody legend. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I had Mark, followed by Yanni. Oh, thank you, Mark. Okay, and Yanni.
Yeah, thank you. There's obviously a lot of information in our pack, and yeah, I appreciate there's a whole explanation of the different processes around these sorts of infrastructure projects and decisions. I was just at a high level, I was trying to understand where the Southwest Area Plan fits in, how we ensure that the things in the Southwest Area Plan are delivered through the individual outline development plans or the individual subdivision consents. Like, does someone check that the things that we said to the community we would do are actually being done? Or how does it work in terms of that higher level planning document?
My understanding is it's all consistent with the outline development plans. And so they're agreed at the high level, and then these are essentially the traffic resolutions that allow us to enforce all those parts that are agreed under the outline development plan.
Is someone from Transport actually actively looking at the Southwest Development Plan? I just note, for example, that there were proposed new roads, for example, which don't seem to be happening through this process.
So through the chair, we do look at the plan, and we try and work with developers to try and enact that plan as best we can. That doesn't necessarily mean that we have control over everything that happens within it.
Thank you, Yanni. Any further questions? Can I have some clarity, please, from the Secretariat in terms of what the recommendations are? Are they the ones on page 17 of our agenda or on page 22 of our agenda, please? 22 and 23?
No, it's page 17 of the agenda.
Right, so page 17 of the agenda has the recommendations on it, and I have Councillor Peters moving. Do I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Nathaniel. Can I have... are we using Votenda, or are we just all going to... All those in favour? It's reasonably straightforward. Thank you. All those in favour? Aye. Motion carried. Thank you. So, now that we've established how this works, let's move on to the next item, which is number 7, subdivision roading approval for South East Hallswell. Thank you, Stephen.
Yep. So through the chair, this is a true retrospective approval. The subdivision has already been built. The road markings that these resolutions would enact are already on the ground. So what we're asking for here is your approval of those road markings, so then they can be legally enforceable.
Thank you very much. We've got Andre happy to move. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Mark. All those in favour? Aye, thank you. And so finally on to item number 8, which is subdivision internal roading approval for South East Hallswell. We've got Andre happy to move. Anything to add to that, Stephen?
Through the chair, it's very similar to item 7.
Thank you very much. And I've got Tyler seconding that. Have you got a question? Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, not quite relating directly to this, but I am concerned with regards to what are the thoughts and plans for a cycleway through, say, from Hoonhay intersection through to Sparks Road, because the original cycleway excluded the roundabout, and on the basis that the roundabout didn't, or that the plan, that you brought to us was acceptable to NZTA. And that community and our community board voted for that and excluded the roundabout. We now have the roundabout, so I would like to have a discussion in the future on what the thoughts are with regards to the cycle lanes proposed, because the original ones took out all the parking and wasn't supported by the community.
So through the chair, we're more than happy to work with you, councillor, on filling in those cycleway links in
That'd
that
be
area.
great, because it'd be a shame if we got a surprise. Thank you.
Yeah, there was an OPEX budget put in during the last annual plan to investigate that. So
I think the key I'm trying to get across is no surprises.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Tim. So we're now on to... That's the end of the item? Oh, okay. I missed that one. All those in favour? Thank you. Motion carried. Thank you, gentlemen. We're now on to item number 9, which is the Dangerous and Insanitary Buildings Policy 2026 for submissions and adoption. Who's speaking to this, please?
So I think Tracy Weston is speaking to it, but I'm happy to introduce the item.
Who was the other person? What's your name? Hello, Andrew.
Morning all.
Do we need to shuffle this down the agenda or something? Where are we at?
If you're happy to, Chair, I can introduce the paper.
Thank you. What is your name?
Jenna Marsden.
Hello, Jenna. Welcome. Hello, Andrew. Thank you.
Thank you. So item 9, this report is a report back to Council following a special consultative procedure on amendments to the Dangerous and Sanitary Buildings Policy. The Building Act 2004, Section 131, requires the Council to adopt a policy to outline how it will undertake its responsibilities under the Building Act in relation to dangerous, affected and unsanitary buildings. So as you're aware, the scope of the policy is quite narrowly defined by that Act and case law as well, and it is limited to the Council's responsibilities under the Building Act and not wider or related matters. So this policy represents one possible avenue to deal with certain issues that may arise from derelict buildings, but it's not an all-encompassing approach. So the policy review is legislatively required. We need to review it every 5 years, and amendments can only be made in accordance with the special consultative procedure. So the Policy and Planning Committee considered the report on the draft proposed amendments, and Council consulted between the 25th of May and 26th of June. We received 4 submissions. Broadly, the proposed changes were supported by submitters, although a common theme in the feedback received was a desire for the policy to apply more broadly than is possible under Building Act regulation. For example, things like a lower threshold to take action or considering matters such as immunity. Based on the submissions received, staff are recommending Council considers some further minor amendments to improve the policy, and these are highlighted in attachment C to item 9 on your agenda. I'd also like to point out there are a couple of staff recommended amendments, particularly the removal of policy clause 3.4. So from here, Council should consider the submissions received, review the advice and recommendations provided by staff, deliberate on the issues raised, and make a decision on the final form of policy. And Tracy, I don't know if you want to add anything.
Thank you, Jenna. Welcome, Tracy. I think I've got Dave snuck behind you there, and Andrew. Thank you, Tracy.
Yeah. Sorry for lateness. You looked very quickly on the previous items. So I'm not sure what Jenna has covered. I'm sure she's covered everything that needs to be said in relation to the report. So through you, Mr. Chair, I'm more than happy to open up and hear back from the councillors in relation to the report content.
Thank you. And I've got questions first from Nathaniel, followed by Yanni.
First off, yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendation with a couple of amendments that I've sent through, which are pretty minor, but maybe we'll get to that after questions. Is that
Sure, I haven't seen the amendment yet. Thank you.
That's all from me for now. I'll pass.
Thank you. Yanni.
Thank you. So in terms of section 12, I appreciate we got the memo, but 12.5 and 12.6, it talks about us using the VADE model. If we wanted to use a different approach, a stricter approach, what wording would we need to be put in here? How can we do that? I mean, the number of submitters raised concern that they want us to do more. So what would be the alternative to using the VADE model that would get greater action?
I'll just jump in here. So with the VADE model, it is a voluntary assisted, directed and enforced model. However, we do not have to go through all steps of that process. So if there is a serious degree of risk or harm to the community, we can go straight to directed. So it's not a prescriptive step-by-step process, but it is a best practice recognised process for regulatory responses through nationally. I understand that, but I think the concern from people in the community is, there's multiple complaints over multiple years of the same property, and it feels like things just drag on and on and on and on. Letters sent, responses given, deadlines missed. Quite often there'll be multiple fires at the same property in the time in which something is actually tangibly done to address the issue. So I know that this legislation is difficult, and I appreciate that there's a very complex way in which we can, what powers we have. Mm-hmm. But sending a signal to the community that we will respond in a more directive way earlier, I think is important. So what would be the way through this policy, given that was, I think at least 2 of the submissions out of the few submissions that we had wanted us to do that. How could we express that in our operating procedure in 12?
Thank you, Yanni. I think John Higgins is going to attempt to respond to that.
Through the chair, one of Councillor Hertz-Jardine's amendments is proposing a further session on the VADE model, and it's to give councillors a bit better understanding of the VADE model and some options that we might be able to look at. So it's sort of answering your question there, Councillor Johansson.
Sorry, I appreciate that, and I would welcome that review. I'm specifically talking about this policy based on the submissions we've had. What changes could we make to it to give the community a greater sense of urgency in dealing with the issues that they raise when they raise them?
So I don't think the policy itself is the place to modify our compliance approach. And that's why I think the workshop where we go through that specifically and that would cover the compliance approach more generally, would be the more appropriate place.
Even though the compliance approach is mentioned within the policy under the procedures section. So you wouldn't change any procedure section in here, even though we had public submissions wanting that.
My advice would be not to change it on the fly through this, but to have a proper workshop and go through that and see what changes councillors might want to make.
Can I ask, following that workshop, what would then be the process to change this policy in the procedure section to reflect what we might agree to in that workshop, or the direction we might want to set?
I think Tracy's got her hand up there.
We could amend the wording in the policy to say that councils recognise compliance strategy as applied. So if you change it from vague, you could change it to whatever, and then we could, so we're not so specific in the document.
I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Yeah. And then, happy to support the amendment or the additional resolutions around that.
Thank you. So that,
Madam Chair, can we just ask Tracy to give us the exact wording as to where it would go, please?
That was off the fly.
Even better.
So council's compliance strategy would be applied within the procedural document.
I think it would be in 12.5, it would just be deleting the second sentence, which says in dealing with any non-compliances, the council enforcement responses follow a model of VADE. So probably just a full stop.
You'd probably just change VADE to our compliance strategy.
I think so.
Right. Yeah.
So, sorry, 12.5 says, in undertaking its monitoring and enforcement functions under the Act and the policy, the Council will utilise a strategic compliance framework in accordance with the Council's compliance strategy. I think it could just be left there.
And probably 12.6 would be removed as well.
so should we just break?
Yeah,
Can we just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Thank you.
Yeah.
Adjourn for 10 minutes. Thank you. We're ready to go back on to this. Thank you, Aaron. So, Tracy, can you just speak to that, please, where we landed?
Okay, so if we were to make a minor amendment such as removing the VADE model from the policy, it's not substantive enough for us to warrant going out for reconsultation, so we're fine to make that amendment in this meeting.
Thank you. So can I just have the Secretariat repeat and show us where we're at? There we are. So
clause H highlighted above reflects the amendment that Tracy has just described.
Yes.
And 8, 9 and 10 are the additional motions that Councillor Hurst-Jardine suggested, and that's been seconded by Councillor Donovan.
thank you for that. Thank you for raising those, Nathaniel. We've lost him. He's back in. So we have the amendments moved and seconded by Councillor Hurst-Jardine and Councillor Donovan. I've got a question here from Melanie.
So in 12.4 above, 12.4.1, it talks about consulting with building owners and determining what course of action to take, which may include not taking any action, which is if they're sort of agreeing to do some work. Does that mean doing absolutely nothing and not following up? Like, what does not taking any action actually mean?
It could mean that the degree of damage doesn't warrant them to take immediate action. It really covers off that we address the matter with the building owners. We work out what the appropriate compliance response is to the matter that we have found through that investigation. So if it was to a degree where it has been deemed dangerous and warrants work, then there would be required actions to be taken.
Right. Okay. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. So do we have any further questions? So, thank you, Yanni.
Sorry, I just was keen to understand a little bit about the November 26th date and whether it needs to be that far out or whether it could be by November 26th. Obviously keen to get onto this sooner rather than later.
Staff are quite, sorry, through your chair, staff are quite happy to, but by November 2026.
So you're moving those amendments, Nathaniel. You'll be happy with that, I'm sure. Thank you. And Celeste, who's online, giving me a nod and a thumbs up. So there we are. So we've got it moved and seconded. Do I require any debate on this item?
If everyone's in favour, we don't need to debate. We can just vote.
Sorry, that?
If everyone's voting aye, we can just go for it. We don't need to debate.
Yeah. So I'd already asked the question, and I have a hand up by Yanni and by Melanie. Thank you. So off we go.
Yeah. So I appreciate there's a frustration within the legislation that we have to work within as a council. But, you know, there is huge concern in our community and not reflected in the submissions because we didn't get a lot of submissions, but from individual residents who have complained multiple times on individual properties that are derelict, that are a hazard and a fire risk. And more often than not, those properties end up catching fire at huge distress to the local neighbours, not to mention the way in which those properties are filled up with rubbish and have all sorts of other unsatisfactory and unsuitable uses going on. So I welcome looking at what more we can do in terms of the compliance strategy. From my mind, we need to take a more proactive approach faster rather than the current approach, which at the moment residents are very, very frustrated with. So I welcome looking at what more we can do. If we do need to start advocating to central government for changes as well, I think we should be open to that. Because the current example, if we have properties that are a huge hazard to a community are simply left and we are toothless to do anything about, is completely unsatisfactory in my mind. So thank you to staff for being amenable to looking at what we might be able to do differently. I'm happy to support this policy.
Thank you, Yanni. Melanie.
I just wanted to speak to removing the reference to the VADE model. I personally won't actually support that. I'm not sure that the model itself is the problem. It may just be the way it's implemented or the time frames within it. I think the idea of I know if we remove the wording, it doesn't mean we may not do it, but I think it's important that we actually include in our policy that people may be able to take voluntary actions assisted. I think I have no problem with that model as it stands, and I think removing it sends the message we may not, we may take an approach that maybe is too forceful. I don't know, but I'm not going to support that.
Thank you, Melanie. Would you be happy we progress with voting on everything as a whole and just noting your opposition to that item number 10? 8. Where are we? Oh, 8. There we are, H. 3H. Thank you very much. Nathaniel.
Sorry, I just want to respond to attempt to allay Councillor Koga's concerns. So the idea is not that we're saying when it comes to the dangerous and sanitary buildings policy, we're not going to use VADE. It's just a matter of making sure that when we alter our compliance strategy, that those differences flow through into the policy on dangerous and unsanitary buildings. So we're not tying our hands on the dangerous and unsanitary buildings. So for example, if in the compliance strategy we were to say in certain situations X, Y, Z, we're going to use an escalated approach, and not do VADE, then we wouldn't then have to go back and change this policy, because this policy is speaking to the compliance strategy. So that's kind of what it's about. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Nathaniel. And Kelly.
Yeah, look, I'm going to support this. I get a lot of requests from people in the area that I represent for council staff to look very closely at some derelict houses. And I've learnt that the bar is high. It's way too high, really. And often these people are really letting the neighbourhood down and not being good citizens. These places are abandoned, and they agree with Councillor Johansson there, inviting fires and vandalism, etc. So anything we can do to tighten up the compliance would be very welcome, because I think people, the general public, don't really understand how high the threshold is, and they can't understand why we're so powerless to actually do something. So the sooner we explain it in a way that people can understand and have more power to actually act in these cases, I think people will appreciate it. Cheers.
Thank you for that, Kelly. And so, final word, thank you to staff for the work that they've done on this piece, for this policy, and thank you for your agility in dealing with the amendments on the trot today in the chamber. So we will, it's been moved by Nathaniel, seconded by Celeste. We'll put it to the vote, noting the Melanie's issue with 3H. So all those in favour? Aye. Thank you. Against? Motion carried. Thank you. So we're now moving on to item number 10, and this is for the Waitaha Canterbury Regional Spatial Plan Committee. And I think we have Mark and Ben, thank you, and Brent, maybe, in support. Welcome, gentlemen. On to item number 10. The floor is yours.
Kia ora, and thank you. Yes, just the report in front of you today is seeking Council's agreement to establish the Waitaha Canterbury Regional Spatial Plan Committee, nominate representatives and confirm or approve Council's commitment to the necessary budgets. This follows the Canterbury Mayoral's Forum's endorsement on the 17th of July for a high-level program approach to the regional spatial planning, and which has been discussed over the course of the year in that forum. We're now at a stage where we seek approval being sought for this across all local authorities to start the early establishment of the regional spatial plan. Just a reminder of the legislative driver for this is that it's around the RM reform, the Planning and Environment Acts, soon to be Acts in September hopefully, and for each of those in the Planning Act you have to provide a combined plan for the region as a whole, and key to that is a regional spatial plan, which will look to set strategic direction out to at least 30 years, identify or map priority locations for growth, significant infrastructure constraints and priority locations for adaptation. Could also set out objectives, policies, etc. for further guidance. Statutory timeframes for this are quite tight. They were extended under the Select Committee's report back. We have 21 months to notification, which, if that was anticipated in September, we're looking to mid-2028 for notification. That in itself is tight, hence why a lot of these conversations around establishing the committee, etc., are happening ahead of legislation actually landing, so we can get on the front foot. A key to the process, what I'll touch on now, is the process agreement, which will occur and be driven by the committee once established. The process agreement sets out the relationships and how things will work within the process, key geographical areas, issues and opportunities. And quite a key one is the decision making. So whether or not there'll be a division of responsibilities around decision making for aspects or issues that sit within specific territorial authority areas. So that process agreement could outline that territorial authority is solely responsible for decision making around those issues. So that'll be one of the things that will be key to discuss through that process. And obviously how we collaborate and work together. So it builds on the terms of reference and sets the expectations. The proposed committee structure is established as a joint committee under the Local Government Act. Its proposed membership will include one elected member from each of the current 11 councils, 3 representatives from mana whenua, and that's been agreed to by Papatapu Urunga, and 1 independent chair, non-voting, and also a Crown appointment, non-voting. This ensures each of the councils have a voice while providing strong legitimacy to the regional processes. Again, key to that membership is nominating today, hopefully a member and an alternative to it as well. And again, that process agreement will be able to flesh out some of the decision-making protocols. The resourcing of and the role of the Greater Christchurch City Council, it's been agreed that the Secretariat Independent Program Director will sit within Council, and the HR management roles will sit with Council. So that will set up, looking at the early stages of setting up that now, and including pulling together a PD for an independent director to lead the Secretariat. At the moment there's an interim director trying to set up the program, but we'll advertise for that. Once that person lands, the Secretariat as a whole can come together. In terms of financial commitment, there's a requested budget for the establishment phase, and this is primarily around that Secretariat, and establishing that is $725,000, and the recommendation is that Council approves its share of that, being 20.5%, totaling around $148,000. That's to get the ball rolling in terms of setting up the establishment and the Secretariat. The other aspect of the recommendations is endorsing that same percentage or proportion of contribution to the wider costs of developing and producing the regional spatial plan, everything from the actual document itself through to hearings and the management of that. Again, that has to be refined still. Estimations is around $7 to $10 million as a whole for the full development, and the contribution of that 20% from Council, roughly around that $2 million mark. But again, that has to be refined, particularly in relation to the Select Committee's report back on what information can be used that currently exists that can be brought up, that may come down. Just to note that percentage reflects the current contributions within the Canterbury Mayoral Forum. Next steps, if we approve the establishment today, the next major decision will be that process agreement. Again, it'll be worked through with the councils, hopefully with the establishment of the committee. The key, the decision for that will come back to the territorial authorities though as well. It's not made off with the Secretariat or the committee. It will come back to TAs to approve. So it'll be the next big decision, and that will fundamentally outline the relationships and those key decision points for the regional spatial plan, if we approve today.
Just to briefly add to what Ben has said, the timeframes for the implementation of the new planning bill, soon to be Planning Act, are short and requires sufficient resourcing to deliver on those timeframes. Delay could slow down the establishment of the Regional Spatial Plan Committee and risk us making a late start if we don't have all 10 councils across Canterbury making decisions on this establishment phase. As been outlined, this is very much about getting the committee established and getting the ball rolling. The process agreement that Ben touched on is a matter that will come to you separately, and amongst other things in the process agreement is what the bill which has been reported back by Select Committee. What the bill does refer to is the process agreement outlining whether there's any division of decision making by that committee on matters or parts of the draft regional spatial plan. And it does in fact give an example of, for instance, a particular territorial authority being the sole decision maker on certain content relating to its district. So the process agreement is really where that detail of how voting arrangements will occur as they relate to each district. And so today is not about the process agreements, it's very much about the establishment.
Thank you, gentlemen, for explaining that and patiently stepping us through those important issues. I wonder if I could just start, Ben, and Mark, recognising that in terms of the work to be done, Christchurch, Waimakariri and Selwyn, we're ahead of the curve, so to speak, in that we've already done a significant amount of work in our own regional spatial plan. And so perhaps the balance of the work really is around the coordination and the work happening in the other part of Canterbury. Would that be a fair assumption?
Yes, that would be pretty fair. Particularly seeing the Select Committee report back, it seems to be pulling it more up into that strategic space, refining more what the obligations are, which do reflect a lot of the work through the Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan. Obviously, that there are elements of it that won't be carried forward. There'll be more detail to pull through to support it, but it's a great foundation for the Greater Christchurch area.
Thank you, Ben. Now I've got some questions lined up from Pauline, Tyler and Aaron. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Just on the representation for Christchurch City Council around this table, can you please give me some advice on an option for us to seek having 3 members at that table? So not just the mayor and an alternate, which means 1 member at the table. If we were to have an appetite to put 3 on there, what would that mean? And would there be an advantage in us doing that?
It would mean, firstly, that would have to go back to the discussion around reframing those terms of reference that have come through the CMF and getting agreement on that there, and then for each of the councils then to subsequently approve that, which they are currently going through. So it would, probably be a process and a lengthy one to get agreement. Others may seek the same. It would probably, and I'd say it would take some time. The other aspect would be the voting arrangements would have to be discussed and outlined within that. At the moment, the terms of reference, it doesn't explicitly say it, but it's one per council or member who's non-voting. So it would be a bit of time and effort to go back through that process and go back then through all the councils.
Then a month delay and then seeking approval of the rest of the committee for that.
Thank you, Ben. Councillor Cotter, I think John wants to have a quick word on this too. Thank you.
Yeah, so it would create a delay, and this is a process that needs to be done quickly because we only have 21 months to notification from enactment. So it's that delay, and obviously it would throw everything up in the air in terms of the other councils would want to consider their proportion as well. So there'd be a lot of debate and delay through that. It's probably unnecessary, as Ben and Mark sort of outlined, because we do have this process agreement which will start to consider this level of detail. And then there is also the safeguard of all the major decisions having to come back to council to decide as a council. So there is that safeguard as well. So I'm not sure it's necessary.
So that you feel that gives us enough input as a council to have our voice around that table.
and particularly through that process agreement, what we're talking about is including report back sort of stages where we will come back in the early development stages of the material. So you will get to consider it those early stages as well.
I guess it's just, you know, as a population base in the area that we have, we feel that some more input into this. Was this raised earlier at a meeting where it was suggested that we perhaps have more around the table at the forum? At all?
I don't think it was suggested that Christchurch City Council had more in that table, but it was certainly something that we discussed, that we were funding 20% of the costs, but only having one member on the spatial plan.
Thank you. Bede's going to have...
Thank you. Look, and I think John might be able to elaborate through you, Madam Chair. John might be able to elaborate on the purpose of this, if you like, this board and its function. Because as a rule, when the mayoral forum, it makes recommendations to various councils, and so it doesn't have any power as such to bind any particular council on a matter. And so generally it's taken that because it's a mayoral forum, it's just each mayor represents their, in our case, city, their district, or in the regional council's case, the region. And so it's tended to be one authority, one territorial authority, one vote, and that represents really how the mayoral forum operates at a broad level. And John, do you want to talk a little bit about the function, because it's not determining the substantive part of the work that's done elsewhere, isn't it?
So just clarify what you mean by that. Bede is the Spatial Planning Committee will make a recommendation back to each individual council about notifying the spatial plan, and then the ultimate decision on the spatial plan. So they were the safeguards I was talking about before, where they're only recommendations that are coming back. Each council make the decision, but we are also very carefully looking at the process agreements to make sure that our council will have sufficient input into the development of the spatial plan, and the decision making on the spatial plan as well. So we are very cautious about that, and we are making sure that that's included in the process agreements.
Because, I mean, you could say, okay, it comes back to council for approval, but then we will undoubtedly get the message, oh no, there's no time for a change because it has to go back, and we've only got the 21 months.
Yeah, that's why there are, obviously, because the bit I haven't mentioned is once notified, it will be an independent hearings panel that will be hearing the submissions, and they will be making recommendations as well. So there is that process in amongst it as well. But again, I point to the process agreement and our opportunity through that to make sure that Christchurch City's voice is heard through that. And secondly, the safeguard in terms of approval of the plan coming back to council.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Pauline. We'll move on from that. So we've next got Tyler and then Aaron.
Kia ora, guys. Just a question on clarification. Ben, were you saying that we're going to be, as our council, are going to be employing a new director? Is that what the table is here? With the staff table that's here, referring to page 193?
Yeah, through the chair, yes, that's the secretariat has to be housed, so to speak, in a location. So, for example, the Greater Christchurch one sits in ECAN. The secretariat for this spatial plan committee will sit within Christchurch City Council, and we're responsible for the HR matters for that, and recruitment, engagement, and finding space, etc. within the council. It would include the program director, the project manager, and that relationships, which will be external, likely external people.
Is that co-funded from the other councils?
Yes, yeah, that is part of that initial establishment fee of the 725,000.
The table below.
The table below, yeah. Sorry, and our contribution there being the 148.
Okay, no worries. And I just wanted clarity. You had the establishment. There's the establishment part, and then there was the other one that was separate that you were talking about. Mark, forgive me if I'm wrong, but were you saying that there could be governance arrangements in that second phase after the establishment? I forgot what they called it.
The process agreement. So what I was describing was today you're agreeing to the establishment of the committee. A later decision is to come to council for approval as well as the other councils, on the process agreement, which will set out, amongst other things, the voting arrangements.
Got you. Which could potentially refer to the amendment that's being tabled right now. Can we scroll down if that's all right? Okay, this is different. Yeah, because this is 2 additional voting members appointed at a future date by Christchurch City Council. Would that correlate with the process arrangement?
No, because the process arrangement doesn't.
Oh, Mike.
As far as I understand, the future process agreement isn't going to affect the membership or voting rights of the committee. Is that?
Yeah, through the chair, that's correct, but it will define the decision making that could sit within council. So some of the concerns are around losing control. That can be refined and made very clear in the process agreement as to what decisions sit solely with City Council.
Yeah, but the decisions that involve whole of region decisions or cross catchment decisions and so forth will of course have to be decided at a committee level, and those decisions will be made using the voting arrangements set out in what we're approving today. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
And also the funding arrangements, which currently sits at approximately 30% of the whole funding paid by Christchurch ratepayers, if you include the ECAN portion paid by Christchurch ratepayers. The 30% that our residents are paying versus the 6% of voting rights we get, that's going to be locked in by this agreement today. Is that right?
Yes, through the chair, that's correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for jumping in there, Nathaniel, to get some clarity around that. Whilst we're on the subject of funding, can I just insert a quick question around that with the significant sums that this is going to attract? I wonder what degree of financial oversight there can be from us at the council with a greater share of the funding. What mechanisms or oversight we can have in place, please, to ensure that this doesn't blow out. Thank you, Bede. I wonder if you can address that.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, it is a significant amount of money for council and across the region, and I think we would propose that there is a member of the finance team who supports the team that are doing the spatial plan and reports regularly on how the budgets are being managed, so that there is visibility on that.
Thank you for that, Bede. I've got a handful of questions being lined up, possibly too many for us to get into the break. I think what I might do is just take the next question in line, which is from Aaron, and then we will break for morning tea for 15 minutes and then come back. Thank you. Aaron. Yeah,
mine's just around the timing, given that we don't know what the structure we will have, whether we'll be a unitary on our own or a forced amalgamation or whatever takes place. Is this not putting the plan before the horse? And so why do it now? Why do we not just wait until we know what we actually look like?
Through you, Chair, I can.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
The spatial plan is required to be completed probably before Head Start or Backstop is completed.
But, okay, so then is there any chance it changes after Head Start's completed? Say we end up, say we had 2 mega councils in Canterbury, one here, one big metro, one big rural. Would that change this at all? Or it stays exactly the same?
Because it's across the region in a strategic document, I imagine it will stay in place and it'll just be applied by the new within the new boundaries.
Okay,
secondly, just I did some of the replies that came back about when we submitted our Head Start document was the expectation from the Minister that we continue with the planning.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for that. Because I'm the chair, it's my prerogative to change my mind. And actually, I'd like to get a flavour of the remaining questions, please, before we go into the break, so that we can have get some brain time into it if we need to before we come back. So I've got Tim and I've got Yanni. Thank you.
Thank you. Wouldn't we want to get the process sorted out before we approve? Because we've got the money sorted, and obviously we're paying the majority with a 6% return on our vote when we represent the ratepayers of Christchurch. But why can't we get the process and everything agreed around the table before we actually agree to this? Because as it stands, Madam Chair, I'm not going to vote in favour of this because I think the ratepayers of Christchurch yet again will be carrying the burden.
Thank you. Gentlemen?
For you, Chair, in answer to that question, ultimately the process needs to be defined by the Regional Spatial Planning Committee.
Yeah.
It will come back to the council, the process agreement, but ultimately the legislation sets up a framework to the committee to establish the process.
I'm sorry. Surely we could get an agreement from the other 9 parties, one of which won't be here in 2028, which we will be picking up a majority of their share, let's be honest. So.
Thank you, Tim. Perhaps you can save that for debate later. I think the gentlemen have answered the question. So, Yanni.
Yeah, thanks. So my questions were around the full cost. So I note that ECAN have already wasted millions, probably tens of millions, on a regional plan, which they paused. So I was keen to know if there's any work on that can be picked up and not wasted. Do we have a sense of where ECAN got to with their regional plan and how easy that could be adapted to this process?
Through you, Chair. Yes, they are regional policy statement. A lot of fundamental work in that could be carried forward through this. This regional spatial plan does absorb that sort of role of that policy statement plus other aspects. So yeah, the information in there could be used. It wouldn't be everything within it, but it could see a lot of the conversations for the policy direction. Again, there has to be checked as to whether the evidence base is still relevant, because although as far as they got was to a draft document that hadn't been challenged in any way.
Also, just to add to what Ben said, the reason for the regional policy statement being paused was the minister's the amendment to the amendment bill to the RMA to introduce a plan stop, and the objective of the plan stop, which applies to plan changes of this council, was to enable resources to be focused towards the implementation of the new planning system. So there was some context around it being paused.
Right. So my understanding, like for example, Otago, their land and water regional plan costs 18 million. So, the figures in here seem very low. And I'm just wondering and given our experience with independent hearing panels as well, what financial controls can we put in place on this process so that it's done in a more cost efficient way rather than just an open checkbook, which is basically what we've seen happen in the past with government mandated
Thank you for that
processes.
question, Yanni. We've heard from Bede earlier around some financial oversight here from the city who will be running the secretariat. Anything else you want to add to that, Mark? Ben?
Through you, Chair, the point you made earlier, Chair, that the Greater Christchurch Spatial Plan provides a strong foundation such that we're not starting with a blank sheet, but also that the spatial plan is a high-level direction of how and where we grow as a city, which is distinct from some of the processes you refer to, the District Plan Review, Plan Change 14, which are getting more into the detail of rules, and the spatial plan is a higher level than that. So it's unanticipated to be at that detail that comes with the costs of a process, and of course it will be refined as we gather more information, so through the establishment phase we can report back on a regular basis with more robust estimates of the costs.
Okay, and the final question from me was, can we get a resolution that effectively recognises that this is another unfunded central government mandate on us, and therefore we invoice government for the full cost of doing this work, recognising the significant millions we've already spent on regional planning?
Well, Jan, if you'd like to make that amendment, perhaps you can work that up in the break and it can be voted on if required. But we're going to take the morning adjournment. Thank you, gentlemen, for answering the questions. Thank you to my colleagues for your engagement on the issue. We'll come back after the break and finish this item. Thank you. We will be back at, let's make it 11:30 for good measure. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You'll note that the Mayor's in the room, but he's told me I have to clean up the mess that I started, so he's not going to... So I have to remain in the chair to finish. We do have some amendments up there. Before we move to that, I was just going to invite staff, if they had any closing comments, please. There'll be no further questions at the moment, but were there any closing comments to clean up any of the other issues you dealt with this morning?
Kia ora, thank you. Just in wrapping it up, starting with the why now, and it's a legislative requirement, or actually, as we'll say not yet, but soon to be a legislative requirement, and we're trying to get in front of that because it outlines some pretty tight timeframes to undertake the regional spatial plan, and it's prudent to have these discussions now because the establishment phase in itself, as we touched on, could take some time eating into that time that we will have. The bills have set out the order of how things should occur to proceed, and the committee is a big part of establishing it. So that does need to be set up to have those conversations that lead to us undertaking the work, including that process agreement. It's important to note it's a strategic plan, so the information in it will be high level. It won't be granular. It'll just be setting that direction. As John alluded to, there'll be safeguards around before it's notified. It will come back to council for consideration, and before its final decision as well, it will come back via that committee back to each council for approval. And the bills do provide for disputes resolution as well through that process should there still be ongoing disagreement. Following the regional spatial plan, you will have the land use plans to be implementing it, which will be within the council boundary. The regional council will have the natural environment plans to establish as well, so it'll be a process to further refine and go through there. And a reminder, I guess, that a lot of this will be set by national direction as well, which will come out overlapping this process. We may even see some exposure drafts soon. So still a lot of work to happen, and I guess a lot of opportunities to have input and direction. And in developing the spatial plan itself, where it's not just going to happen in isolation with the committee, staff here involved will be reporting back and seeking direction and from the council around what input should go into it and back up through the approval steps to the committee. So it's done collaboratively across the region, but it'll be done together as a council as well. As I mentioned, the process agreement will be important in setting out some of that decision-making aspects to further give council comfort and some idea of control around the particular aspects that are important to the city council. And that will have to be developed. The committee has to be set up to have that discussion, and again that will come back through council for approval. So another little safeguard to have a conversation there. Acknowledge that it's not the voting in terms of the process agreement, it's just the decision making, which we can refine. That is set out by, I guess, the terms of reference in terms of voting, which is necessary to set up the committee. Not approving that or going for changes to the membership that was as discussed, because it's a collective, it's collaborative. We have to go back and get all the other councils on board with that, and that's a process we can go through. It will take time, and it's just a discussion. One of the discussions may be, though, that if we're particularly aligning our membership around proportion of payment, ECAN have the same, they may expect the same. If you look at the table in the report, Selwyn pays considerably more than, say, Mackenzie. Do they expect more votes than Mackenzie? So it's not to say that conversation discussion can't happen, but it will take time, and that time so the terms of reference will then have to be discussed, changed, and then come back to each council through these processes. That will take probably months, and only further delays and eats into the time we have to actually establish the committee to get into the work to do the regional spatial plan.
Thank you, Ben. I'm almost regretting giving you open licence to close up there. We're nearly there.
Was that? Yeah, you caught me right at the end.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Now, I'm happy to move the substantive motion which is on the table, which includes the amendment that was mentioned by Yanni there at number 16, and also includes the Mayor to be appointed at number 7 and Tyler Harrison Hunt at number 8, which is currently on the screen. And I have a seconder from Sam McDonald. Just reminding everybody that we'll go to Votendo, so can you make sure that you're logged on to do that?
So I'm moving
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm just about to come on to that. So that's the substantive motion is moved and seconded. I'm aware now that there is an amendment by Nathaniel, which is sitting in at, there we are. It's in relation to the terms of reference and wanting 2 additional voting members. So that's an amendment that needs to be put separately. We'll put that first. And can I get some clarity on that, please? Can that be put? Can the amendment by Nathaniel, can that be put to be voted on, please?
With permission from the mover, we could just include it in the substantive.
No, I'm not prepared to include it in the substantive.
Probably wouldn't get the permission of the seconder either. Sorry,
so
my question, Vic, was just around to the technical people. Is can that actually, like, maybe I misinterpreted your advice, but basically I don't think that was practical of being implemented, which would rule it out, is what I was wondering.
There we are. So.
Perhaps
John.
I can, through the chair, it would need to go back through the Canterbury Mayoral Forum and go through a process with them as well, and then come back here again. It's going to make meeting the timelines more difficult. Yes, that's one of our concerns.
Yep, so that can be put. So we will go to one debate, please, on the amendment, which will be voted on first, and the substantive. Can I have a show of hands of those who are wanting to debate? Here we go. Thank you. Starting with Nathaniel, then Tim, and then Mark. Thank you.
So this committee that we are voting to establish will be one of the most important committees in the entire region for the next decade. It sets the framework for all spatial, planning and environmental decisions that will happen across Canterbury. It will set the parameters by which we will be able to make our own land use plans for a very long time. This is really one of the most consequential decisions that we're going to be making, probably after the Head Start proposals from last week. And in making this decision, we really have to be thinking about our residents who we represent. So this, the substantive without my amendment gives Christchurch residents, which is 60% of Canterbury's population, 60%, gives them just 6% of the votes on the Regional Spatial Planning Committee, while requiring us to pay over 30% of the costs, if you include the proportion that Christchurch residents pay via ECAN. So 5 times more payment than votes, and a tenth of the votes we should be getting if this were based on population, if we were using a basic democratic principle to make this decision. So we're currently 21 months out from notification, and we're already being told that we have to hurry, we've got to rush, we can't change anything that has already been approved by the higher level because it will just delay things. Just imagine in 2028, when we're months out from approving a regional spatial plan, the idea that we would have any meaningful input in that plan, or that at any step along this process from here, where we're never going to have more time than we do now to get this right. So in a few months, we're going to have the terms of reference dictated to us by this committee, and we're going to be told, yeah, they're not fair on the residents of Christchurch. Yes, it will lead to bad decisions that your residents won't approve of, but you don't have the time, so you're going to have to approve this anyway. We're going to be told that month after month after month, all the way up until a regional spatial plan is decided on, essentially by the mayors of the rest of Canterbury, with 1 vote out of 13 representing the voice of the entire of the city of Christchurch. So we are at the top right now of a very slippery slope, and we're being told you have to jump now, but you'll be able to stop at any time. That's really what this is. This is a very big risk, because the risk we're being asked to take is basically wait until 2028, a few months out from the notification deadline, and if you don't like what you get then, and you vote it down, we are not going to have time to come up with a new spatial plan. We'll have to get commissioners in to do it. That is a huge risk, and we really can't take that risk. There is another way of doing this. There is a compromise option, which is what my amendment puts forward, where we're asking for just 2 extra seats at the table to represent Christchurch residents. So we would still be paying a lot more than our fair share for this whole system. We would still have fewer votes than our fair share, but at least we would have the capacity to provide real and meaningful input into this plan. Because this isn't just about voting power. This is actually about who are the people on that committee, and do they have the time and then the resources to make these decisions on behalf of the people of Christchurch. And I think, and under the current situation, not only do we only have 1/13 of the votes, but the person we have representing us has incredible demands on their time as the mayor of the city. I think we should be sharing the burden of this work and these decisions among at least 2 more elected representatives to represent the people of the city. This change will take 1 short month to go back to the mayoral forum and other councils and come back. It is a very small change, and that risk is tiny. It's a tiny risk, just taking a month to get this first step right. Comparing that to the risk of the alternative, which is having almost no say and the largest share of the costs in creating a spatial plan, which we will have no input on, and which will define the way that our city looks for the next 20 to 30 years. So please support this amendment.
Sorry, that was very untimely of my phone. Thank you, Nathaniel. I've now got Mark and then, Tim and then Mark, followed by Tyler.
Thank you. Wholeheartedly agree with what Nathaniel's just said, but I won't be supporting this or the substantive. We're in an organisation which survives on process, and yet if we go and set up the committee to let the committee make the decision and give us some advice, we're paying to lose. This is, as Nathaniel said, such an important part of the future of Canterbury that we've got to get our first step right. And I just cannot agree with our community getting 6% of the vote but 30% of the money. It's not democratic in any way. And as the staff said, what about Mackenzie District? What about the others? It's actually a really good point to bring up, and I think it should be discussed with all our partners, because if it goes back to the mayoral forum and they say, no, we're not interested, we want to keep with what has been discussed, then that's a warning sign in itself. I won't be supporting this at all. I don't think it's the right way to go forward. I think we should have a really good discussion with our neighbours, 2 of which have made it very clear they don't want to hold our hand anyway. So I think this could be a very expensive process for our ratepayers who we represent, and I won't be supporting either. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. So now we've got Mark and then Tyler.
Thank you. Thank you, Nathaniel, for your amendment on this. I will be supporting that amendment because we, around this table, need to safeguard the interests of our residents and make sure that our voice is heard and has an influence in this Regional Spatial Plan Committee. This is, as was stated by Nathaniel, the biggest decision that we're going to make for a fair while on this one. This is the future of Canterbury, and this is what will govern and set the future going into the new planning environment. So we need to make sure we get it right. We need to make sure we have the effective voice around the table. I agree that the mayor is an incredibly busy person, a lot of pulling on his time, so we need to make sure that there is the good representation around the table to make sure that our ratepayers have enough voice around that table, with extra elected members being there to help guide the process and make sure that we get the best outcome for Christchurch. So I will be supporting the amendment, and thank you to staff for the foresight in getting this to us, because the Regional Spatial Plan is something that we really do need to get right, and having our voice there in enough volume is certainly needed. So thank you for bringing it to us.
Thank you, Mark. And Tyler.
Kia ora koutou. It doesn't seem like a great precedent to be setting to be voting for a disproportionate vote in the Regional Spatial Plan Committee, and everything that Nathaniel raised was spot on. The thing that I'm sort of holding up against is around the likelihood of actually this being implemented, because if we went to, say for example, this amendment passed, they'd then have to go back to the other mayors, and then the other mayors will have to go back to the other councils to be voted on, and then the other councils will say, well, hold up, if Christchurch are getting a proportionate vote, then where's our proportionate vote, which is Ecan, Selwyn, those are the two major ones, and Waimak potentially with an extra vote. So I'm just trying to foresee and foreshadow things that could happen in the future. And that obviously slow the process down. I'm not sure how the timelines would work. And Nathaniel, when you're raising up about the 21 month timeline, I think that is a pretty, if that's true, I trust you. I think that's a pretty easy timeline to work within, but that's to establish both the committee to get all our ducks in order and to get everyone in agreement. I think 21 months is pretty tight. So I'm having a hard time. So I'd love if someone else chimed in to sort of help us with these perspectives, but I completely agree with the premise of what Nathaniel's doing, and everyone was talking about swallowing a dead rat, and it's sort of what we're doing at the moment.
Thank you.
Difficult. Thanks.
Thank you, Tyler. It's not that I can read Councillor McDonald's mind, but you may get a contrary view, and he's next.
I always agree with Tyler, except maybe he'll notice the motion later on today. I actually tend to agree with Nathaniel in terms of the cost stuff as well, but that wasn't, unless I've got it wrong, that wasn't the amendment Nathaniel put up to split the costs. So I'm not quite sure if that's something you're planning on doing or not. So I was just a wee bit confused as to whether that's the case. And actually, I think you're right, Phil is incredibly busy as the mayor, he's elected on behalf of the people of Christchurch, but I've got complete confidence in Tyler as the alternate, so I'm not sure why we're reinventing the wheel. And it does feel a bit like deja vu. We were sitting here last week talking about how we need to respect our neighbours when I was saying, actually, let's go hell for leather. And everyone sort of shouted me down. So I'm just confused as to why it's all changed in a week. But again, I may have missed something. And I just wonder, the mayoral forum, unless, again, that's changed, I didn't think that was a binding forum. So I thought the councils were still elected on behalf of the people and they got to adopt or reject. So if we got to a point where we didn't accept it, unless the laws changed or the terms of reference to the mayoral forum have changed in the time I've, since the last meeting, I'm just not sure why we're arguing over something that, if we're going to be good neighbours, which, hey, I'm all for not being and bringing everyone in together, why are we going against that today? Something's obviously changed that I'm not aware of.
Okay, thank you, Sam. So I'll round this off. Here we are, Yanni.
Just wanted to clarify, are you having a debate on the substantive as well?
Yes, we are having a debate on the substantive as well.
Cool.
Thank you very much. I asked for that at the beginning. So I will be closing this off and reminding my colleagues that we're merely standing up a committee to ensure that a really robust process is followed to develop the spatial plan. And the spatial plan itself is a very high-level strategic document, and actually much of the work for Greater Christchurch, being Christchurch City, Selwyn and Waimakariri, has already been done, and I was on that spatial plan hearings panel, and it was a very comprehensive and thorough process. So also picking up on the fact that actually there's still a lot of work to be done that will give us an opportunity to provide further input and direction. We're yet to embark on the new district plan, land use plans, national environment plans, and so actually that is where we should be focusing our attention in due course, and we will have an opportunity to do that in a democratic process. So remember, of course, that any decisions will come back to Council for ratification. Just touching on the issue of cost, which has been raised in some of the questions and comments by staff, I'm really pleased to hear that there will be a degree of financial oversight from Council to ensure that we keep a really close eye on costs so that they don't run away on us. And finally, from me, on the issue of timing, acknowledging the issues and questions raised by my colleague Tyler, this really, Nathaniel's amendment really will require this to be relitigated at CMF. It won't be done within a month. Various mayors will have to go back to their own councils. This could roll on for up to another 2, 3, 4 months from here. We have 21 months to complete the regional spatial plan that's been directed to us, and we are counting. So I won't be supporting the amendment. Now, before we move to vote, reminding everyone we're on votendo, and I require a seconder for the amendment from Nathaniel. Do I have one, please? Thank you, Tim. So we'll vote first, please, on the amendment. Thank you. Wait for the Secretariat to tell us when we're ready to go. Yep,
And that's
we're on,
started.
thank you.
Councillor Harrison Hunt.
He's still thinking about it. Okay, that has passed narrowly, 9 to 8, thank you. So moving now on to the substantive.
Sorry, I just wonder, are we able to now, in light of that decision, bring back the Head Start vote from last week? Well, we've just contradicted ourselves entirely. We have entirely.
Okay, let's bring this
it.
meeting to order. Let's vote, please, on number 10, thank you.
And that is open.
I thought we were having a debate on the substantive.
No, we've had the substantive. I've said it twice or 3 times now, thank you. So has everybody voted? Thank you. 4.
It's closed.
Okay, so thank you. That has passed. And now we'll move on to item 11, and I will very happily vacate the chair. Thank you.
Rotary Ho, we're up to number 11, is that right, Ben?
Correct.
Yep, council emissions reduction plan. Oh, yes, hello. So, would you like to just give us a bit of a wee story, please?
Sure, kia ora koutou. Today we're seeking approval of the Council's first emissions reduction plan. You'll recall we held a workshop on this back in June. The plan seeks to reduce Council's own greenhouse gas emissions as we work towards our organisation's target of being net carbon neutral by 2030. The plan represents the best value reductions available, and it contains practical and implementable solutions, which in several cases represent long-term savings to our current BAU. The plan includes actions which are already committed and funded, as well as signalling areas where additional actions could further reduce emissions in the future. The additional actions areas are shown in orange at the end of the plan. Any of those actions would require additional funding through the upcoming long-term plan process. So just to be clear, approving the plan today does not predetermine any of those decisions in the long-term plan. The normal funding process for any additional actions would still occur. We're now happy to take any questions through the chair.
Yes, thank you. Pauline.
Thanks very much. Yes, just on those additional actions that are currently unfunded, so particularly the ones that you've marked as significant, and particularly the ones which could actually not only reduce emissions but in the long term reduce costs. Are you able to bring us something while we're working on the LTP in these few months, outlining what your priority ones would be and the appropriate funding that would be required, so that we can ensure that if, with the will of the table, that we do have the financial means to actually fund these alternative actions?
Yeah, so our suggestion would be to look to some of the activity plan managers as they're going through their activity plans in the relevant areas and consider each of those additional options and which would be practical to be implementable and what those precise costs might be, so that when they bring those activity plans as part of that long-term plan process, you could clearly see which would be suggested and which may not be included.
Yeah, but considering we've already done quite a few of the activity plans, I'm just wondering if... Oh, B.
Through you, Your Worship. Yes, so we're proposing to bring back some work on where the activity plans have landed. So, and the activity managers have been looking at that as they go through. So I think what this will do is give visibility and emphasis to the work that's going on, and we'll bring it back as part of the continued development of the LTP.
Right, but we just want to make sure that we've got some of these potential additional actions woven in, identified and costed so that we can consider them. Yep, thank you.
And prioritised. And
yep.
Yes, correct, and we note that.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, any Timothy? Oh, sorry, Aaron and Tim, sorry.
What does net neutral mean? If that's our target at 2030, what does that mean?
Sorry, microphone on. It's net zero is essentially all the gross emissions that you put in balanced with all the reductions or removals, so essentially from sequestration from trees to get to net. So it's both the gross emissions and the reductions balanced towards zero.
But we don't have our tree one yet. We don't know, or do we?
No, through the chair, no. We that information is being currently collected, and so in a few months' time we will have that data on trees in our district, or council-owned trees, and we'll include that in our greenhouse gas emissions inventory, and that's how we officially kind of state what our gross emissions are, and then for the first time, yes, we'll have the removals, and that'll give us our true net position.
So if we don't know what our tree position is, how do we know we'll get to net zero?
Yeah,
what's our targets? What we're spending all this money on?
Yeah, so that's what we're aiming to do. So once we have those trees, that will give us our net position. We just don't have that data available yet, and so we're collecting that. There's quite a process to go through for auditors to make sure that we get a credible result in that.
Okay, and then the other one on, like, because we've spent quite a lot of money, I'd say north of $1 billion, when you factor in stuff like, especially around buses and things like that, to reduce emissions, but the line's still climbing. Is there not an expectation from the public the number would have gone the other way? I mean, we've converted a lot of stuff to electric and changed all the street lights. We've done a lot of big spends.
Yeah, so in terms of public transport, obviously the numbers we're looking at here are purely council's own operations, so our own operations, so the bus services and those things wouldn't be included in our emissions figures.
Right.
But yeah, it's certainly making a difference. Every electric vehicle is less emissions from fossil fuels that's going into the atmosphere.
So why does the number keep going up?
Overall, the district, we're about to do district emissions inventory again this year, and then we will find out what that.
So this might change again.
Every 3 years we do the full district emissions, and so that will show the results there.
And to perhaps remind the councillor, over the last few years, our portfolios have been growing. There's been an extensive rebuild, and the number of sites that we have is growing and increasing. Our population is growing and increasing. So we need more electricity to power those buildings, and that has an emissions factor on it. We've had slow growth, very slow growth in staffing. That needs more vehicles to be able to support that activity, because activities don't occur in this building, they occur out in the communities. So we do those things as well. So we are making a difference, but you're not seeing it as much as we would like, because you've still got that growth factor coming in.
Right, okay. And then the other one is around the electricity, that is on the, when you look at that chart, the pie, that we, and so I really struggle with this, that 22.3% of our emissions is from electricity, yet we're using 100% renewable in Christchurch. So, I mean, I can't take these things seriously. Other people fall for it, but I can't when I know the electricity here is renewable, and there's companies in the South Island that sell their products globally based on them using renewable. So they're allowed to do it, but why are we not? And I know that because we buy out of the grid, so on, but it's just not true. So why are we playing a game that's not true? Because essentially we're lying to the public.
I'm really having trouble following the question.
Okay, in the South Island, we make a surplus of electricity.
I think I can probably answer that. Yes, it is most likely that the electrons that we use in electricity have been generated from renewable sources. But we are part of a grid that's countrywide, and that grid does use electrons from other sources that aren't renewable, and we end up accounting for a portion of that through our emissions accounting. I think we can send that message, that strong message to the community that it is almost certain that all of our electricity is coming from renewable sources.
Yeah, well, electrons flow like water, so when it comes from the North Island, I'm picking it's chewed up by Nelson and Blenheim, but long before it gets here, on the odd time, it's very limited the amount of time it ever flows south. It always goes north, hence why the data centre is being put in Southland, which is going to suck up 7% of the electricity, but because it's renewable. But anyway, I'll just, same question, different
Thank
day.
you. Aaron, Sam, please.
Yeah, thank you. And I know this has come up before. It's around 4.10, which is around the treatment plant. So we asked for a piece of advice around, because you recall as we worked through the procurement and delivery of the new treatment plant, it was predicated largely on the emission reduction, and that's why we made the additional investment. But it still references the key challenges being that and the unquantifiable nature. When is that piece of advice coming back?
Through Mr. Mayor, well, I will chase up on the advice, but you may also recall that when Michelle presented that originally, it was predicated on that advice because you had to establish the base first and then measure it, so it wasn't an exact figure at the time. That was in that initial report when we adopted it.
Yeah, but it was relative to the emissions at the moment.
I can get some fresh advice back for you, but that she was very careful to say it's not an exact number that you're going to get, but based on the modelling and the sciences, this is what we're expecting.
Yeah, well, I think what we asked for, and it needs to come soon, because we asked probably 2 months ago for that, is we made investment decisions based on not just the emissions reduction, because it has the growth as well. But what we need to do is it needs to compare the advice we were given in the report to what's actually come through. So I don't know if it needs to be in the resolution, but we need to reference the advice we were given, because it just slowly crept away, not from what you're saying, but from the conversation we had last time. We need the advice we were given at the time to make the decision, the impacts that it's had, and how reliable that information is, because that was a $100 million decision.
I hear what you're saying, Councillor, but also I remember that the staff were very careful on the wording at the time, and you're not going to get the exact figure until it's been up and running and being measured.
Correct.
But we'll get that information back to you soon.
Through you, Your Worship, what we might do then is just note that staff will report back on the matter raised in item paragraph 4.10, if that's acceptable to the... That way
rather than nothing, we're better off to have, not the word best guess, but at least something towards it, rather, because I know damn well that you can't not measure it till the new one's up and running, but we must be a bloody sight better than that. Timmy, please.
Yeah, thank you. I guess what could help is getting an overall view of each. That's not through activity plan with each unit, etc. A lot of work for those units. And to look at yes, it is. The growth of the unit, but also its savings with regards to greenhouse gases, etc. Because you said, Bruce, that some of the units have grown because of the want of a community or whatever. It would be good to understand both of those, because if we are making savings, the growth will be hopefully less than the growth of the unit, because we have passed that message on to CCHL and they are very clear. Our CCOs are absolutely clear, but remembering those organisations have their work plan. We also have a 654 pressure on rates. We can't do everything, but it would be good to understand the growth of the units and perhaps growth of the organisation as a whole, but the savings that are made in relation to those, because to come and say we're not going to meet it, absolutely fine, we're not going to meet it, but what have we achieved? We know that some CCOs are changing from diesel to electricity with regards to generators, but there is a time lapse there to stay within the budgets that they have set to get the returns that we require to fund our city.
Yeah. So understand where you're coming from there. You might remember back to my activity plan presentation, I talked about a couple of our measures. So we do report on emissions reductions on a monthly basis at the moment, but I indicated that I don't think that that was clear enough coming through from that those measures, because you're dealing with a lot of month-to-month variation. If you remember back, I indicated that we will be looking at changing those measures so we can better tell that story. So I think that's what you're asking for, is being able to tell that story in the best way, and we are working on that.
Because it's not really reflected in this, and it would be really good to understand that the reductions and the savings that we are making as an organisation as we go forward, and our CCOs, etc., as a whole. It may not be reaching our 2030, but it's not going to be as bad as it could have been if our units didn't do anything. Because the flip side of that is our ratepayers don't like paying rates, but we have to pay them. But we're also 654 for the next few years, so we've got to have a balance. But to understand the successes that we are getting would be really good to be able to put to the media. Thank you.
Melanie, please.
Thanks for this. With the additional initiatives for the LTP, are there other ones that are related to district-wide? I know this is just about the council, but are there other ones that will be brought back to the LTP too? And could that be referenced here?
Yes. So in a separate piece of work, my team is working on some recommendations that will address district-wide emissions, and that paper we are intending to present to ELT as soon as we can, and then take it from there and hopefully bring it to the council.
So is the idea to bring that to council well ahead of the LTP, or be part of the LTP?
I would take the advice of ELT when we present it to them on how we should best proceed. But yes, ideally, those ideas would also be presented for LTP consideration.
So a similar process to this, but for the district. Okay.
Nathaniel, please.
Yeah, going to Councillor Kewan's question about the carbon cost of the carbon accounting for electricity. Bruce, how many times do you think Aaron's asked that question?
I really can't answer that.
Fair enough. Do you think we could get like a sort of printed out, large print, laminated answers just for future reference to make it a bit easier? Would that be?
It's not a question, mate. Aaron.
Yeah, sorry, I do boil the cabbage more than once. Because sometimes the answer makes no sense. But you know, what would society be if no one asked a question forever, Nathaniel? So when I look at the chart, and it's a follow-on from Sam's one, 2028 is meant to be the commissioning of the wastewater treatment plant, so it's meant to be fully active. And the reason I supported that, and I would have, if I'd known this line was not going to move, I would have gone for whatever was the cheapest, most cost-effective, longer-term goal. But I was happy to spend ratepayers' money on an upgrade. But this line doesn't dip in 2028, and that makes no sense.
Yeah, so the short answer through the chair, that is not modelled in there because we didn't have those figures similar to the previous question. We just simply don't have an estimation of those figures, so we didn't include.
So why don't we sign this off when we have the numbers? Because when we're spending so much of the ratepayers' money on charts that just keep going up, and we've spent a lot of money. I'm not sure why no one else is worried, but
Noting provision in the resolution, but that's not included, nor are the trees.
But in a business plan, when you go and ask for the bank for money, and you go, but we're just going to keep spending more than we earn, the bank go, actually, no, you can't have money. That's how it works. But if you go, hey, we're spending this, we double our production so we can afford to pay for it. But in here, that modelling, well, we were given a number, and I know it's approximate, you don't know until you do. It's the same with when we signed off the LED lights for street lights. Why that didn't drop as well.
So I think what you're saying, Aaron, we're spending a hell of a lot of dough. We're not seeing the number go down.
Well, there should be a drop in 2028. You're the one that actually sold me on it, Phil.
Thank you.
On the activated sludge plant.
Yeah, I did. Because
Because
Should be on 27 as well when we get the data from the sequestration.
So, through the chair, I think that the specific question that staff can answer has been answered. There is a second question there, which would seem to be of really a councillor nature that you can discuss with your colleagues, but it's not up to staff to answer.
Okay.
Okay, my turn. You may have said it, Bruce, but people are aware now that the electric boilers are working in this building. Was that mentioned before?
You are aware, but now everyone else is. So we're
the old open mouth policy again.
They're currently in a commissioning stage. We're testing them out, but they are running at the moment.
Okay.
So that's good. And we'll be moving on to our next stage of thinking, as talked about in the plan, starting to look at battery technology to support them, to help with load management and some cost management associated with that, and further reduce our dependence on fossil fuels.
So, and just while I got you, the art gallery is already on the heat pump department, is it?
The solar is working there. Their heat pump is in installation, due to be completed over the next couple of months.
Okay, so that'll be the end of diesel there. And just going on, I think we're going to get, because when I was electioneering, and both mayoral candidates were saying that the wastewater treatment plant, once this is up and running, is going to chop it by X. And at one stage I was saying 60%, and I think someone said to me, oh, you're over-revving that, so I started saying 45 or something because I wanted to be realistic. But now I'm finding it's nothing. I know it's not nothing, but I'd like you to give us, when we come back for the next one, the sort of best stab in the dark, sort of give us a direction of where we're going. And my last question from me is, there are no council trees at all in this?
That's correct, through the chair. This is only gross emissions, and so as soon as we have data audited on trees, then that can be added to this to show the net position. So this is showing gross reductions only, so all the modelling is gross.
Okay, so you're working on counting trees?
That's correct, yep.
When you say audit them, that's not external auditors or...
We do get our greenhouse gas emissions audited through Toitu, a third-party independent organisation. And so that's with all of our emissions, so all the different sources, just to check.
But at the moment, there are no council trees in the equation, so to speak?
Not at the moment, no. We didn't have that data.
Am I free in saying that once they are in there, because they must be doing something, that something must change on that graph?
Yeah, we don't know the volume at this stage, but it definitely will.
So
a big chunk of emissions will come off there.
A month or whatever, or two away, would we know that? When do you reckon the trees were measured?
Probably by October. The auditing should be done around October, so we should have a figure before Christmas at least.
Thank you. Yanni, please, and then Pauline.
Thanks. Sorry, my agenda just crashed. I don't have the exact page, but there was reference there around looking at what we do in regards to. Sorry, I'll just try and find it. Do you want to come back to me while I just pull it up?
Okay, Pauline.
Yeah, I was just going to ask actually about the biochar to replace the synthetic fertilisers. How do we make biochar? What's that from? Using it around the red zone?
Through the chair.
Andrew's next.
Andrew's.
He's our biochar specialist.
You effectively burn organic material to a certain state, a bit like charcoal.
Okay, cool. And I'd be happy to move this.
You're going to move it, did you say?
Yes.
Okay, and Mel, yeah. You got an amendment. I'm glad I rushed back.
You will. I think it would be good to note those two, that the trees information will be coming back
Oh, yeah, well, they've said
post-October,
it will, so it will.
and we're expecting the information on the waste. Well, that's not included in this report.
So we noted in there. Okay.
Note it, yeah.
Yep, okay.
Can you just?
Right.
So I've got my
So
questions.
hang on, Jan. Are you, Pauline, you're still happy to move it? Okay, yep.
Mel
Sorry,
second.
Jan?
Oh yeah, so just sorry, on page 14 at the top, it talks about opportunities to incorporate electricity supply via solar at the Christchurch wastewater treatment plant. So that says it's been investigated. Are we able to get a sense of like how soon that we will know what we can do, given how much money's been spent there at the moment, and we've just spent obviously a fortune on putting in the additional aerators and diesel generators? So I'm really supportive of looking at that. I just want to see, is there an urgency or a way that we can do that quicker so it aligns with the current work program or the synergy with the existing development?
So there's two pieces of work related to that are underway at the moment. The first relates to the Mayor's notice of motion from May, which was looking at leasing land for ground-based solar. And in that discussion, he specifically mentioned close to the wastewater treatment plant. That work is well underway, and we're starting work on a follow-up report back on that. As late as today, I had questions on it, so that's coming. We in front of you within the next 6 weeks. The second piece is some work about. We don't have a formal solar and battery strategy, but I have briefed you previously on some work that we've been doing in that space. And one of those outcomes that we're looking at is 20% of our electricity being sourced from solar sources. We've been working on what can be done about acquiring direct from solar farms. Again, that work is underway. We're currently in negotiations with our main electricity supplier on that. I won't give a time frame because it's related to their billing systems, and billing systems are something that are more complicated than they should be. So we'll come back once we've got more information back from our main electricity supplier on that.
But the idea of us putting in solar at the wastewater treatment plant to reduce our operational costs is not being looked at. What's being looked at?
No, there is moves afoot, isn't there?
There is mechanisms being looked at for that, yes. However, we're primarily focused on the existing resolution of the council, which came from the Mayor's notice of motion, which is making that available to lease to expert firms rather than council who doesn't have that expertise in running solar farms.
Except Kinetics would be pretty good at that, I think. We've been and had a look at them, right?
They're working on it. And I'll just throw my 5 cents in there. One of the most important things in my view is if we do solar anywhere, we should do it somewhere close to where we use the power, like the wastewater treatment plant, like a swimming pool, so that we don't throw money onto the grid because there's only one person getting money out of that and it's not us.
Okay. And then can I just... Sorry, I just had one final question. So just like, I know this council did a lot of... We were probably we're an early adopter of going to the shared electric vehicle fleet system with Zilch. Are you able just to give us a high-level sense of how that has gone, and then looking forward where you see that going in terms of emission reduction?
I don't have the exact figures at my fingertips, but it has certainly had some significant reductions to emissions, and the service that we're getting is really good. We're comfortable with that. So at the moment, we're continuing with that arrangement. At some point, we will need to go back to market and assess that. But the broad direction of an electric fleet and potentially a shared electric fleet is something that we are willing to continue on.
Can I just
come on,
because it's just related to
last
that.
one,
It's just related to this. Is there any ability for us to look at additional Zilch locations? I know one of the other councillors has raised that question as well.
So we're a customer of Zilch. If from a customer perspective, which is our operations, we needed it, we would raise that with them and ask that. I think some of the questions that have come from councillors are more related from the community use and private use. In that case, the best approach would be for private people to contact and residents to contact Zilch directly on that.
Thank you, thank you. Right, now, Mel, you want to debate it, is it, discuss it? Yeah, is it? No, I'll David, one question, and it's the end of questions, we're going to discussion.
Brilliant, thank you. Just when we were talking about places that might be good for solar farms, obviously the museum end of the road, I know it's not a council property, but obviously the council provides a lot of money towards it. Under construction at the moment, if there was an efficiency to put some solar on the roof there, it would be great.
Okay, thank you. Right, so we're into discussion debate, and Mel's got the only bit.
Sorry, before we go into debate, can I just clarify with the mover and seconder which one of the proposed amendments? They're very similar, so I just need clarification.
Okay. Oh, you happy? It's a substantive. Okay. Right. Debate, Melanie, or discussion.
Yeah, sorry, I've added an amendment just to reflect what Lisa said about bringing the emission-wide things that we could do to reduce emissions to the LTP. But I think all of us are sitting here looking at that graph. I was trying to find the graph where the emissions went down, and I keep looking at the same one. Yeah, and I think we all feel the same. We all want to do better, and we have to work together, and we have to really think about what we can fund to actually support that, because I think in the end of the day it'll all be very well worth it. And I just wanted to thank the team. I think they've got a hard job, because they are not in the units that are producing these emissions. They are monitoring them and reporting back to us, and they're the face of it. So we need to remember that there's all these units of council that are in charge of their areas, and we would like to empower them to reduce their emissions as much as possible, and then really look at the citywide emissions and get on with it.
Okay, so I'll put this motion, the amendments are in the substantive, everyone's happy, we'll vote 10 to it, sorry. Do we really need to? All those in favour? Against? Thank you, that's carried. Right. Now, we are, because one of the staff members got to shoot away, we're going to shoot into PX now to just do some stuff. So if we just give us a couple of minutes to empty the room.
Item 14, we've got a staff member here who's on annual leave. It's probably a 2-minute thing, just item 14. Just aware that Mary Ann's on annual leave today and here to present.
Okay. 14, okay, we've got a mover and seconder. Any discussion? No, all those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Thanks, carry by. Actually, do you think we're on? Nathaniel's happy to move it, and Yanni's happy to second it. Melanie, okay, Melanie seconded it. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you, that's carried. See you later, Jacob. And we'll do 13 while we're really on roll. I'll move that. This is clear as mud, this is. Andre's happy to second it. No questions. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Thanks, carried. Mayor's monthly report, that's outstanding. It is. I'll just rip down there. There is a bit at the start of it, Policy Planning Community Committee, we've just parked that for a future meeting, that little bit at the front. We've got a bit of a change in the Audit and Risk Management Committee, which you can see there. And also, Councillor Moore has replaced Councillor McClelland on CC Christchurch NZ. Okay, just ripping through it, I went to and if you get a chance to go and see it, There's a public artwork by Philip Trustham at the stadium called the Haka. It's outstanding. It's bloody great. So that was all donated. It's very good. It's very good. Oh, Tina's back. Oh, good. And then I went to the Catholic Cathedral of the Blessed Sacrament campaign launch, which was very, very well attended at Marion College, and it was a great group of people, and it's good to see that they're getting on with it, and they're very well progressed with it. That's cool. Went to the citywide prayer breakfast, which was at the Otatahi Lounge at the stadium, so that was very well attended, even though I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. That one of the good things that I went to was the Korean War Ceasefire Memorial, and it was very good because it just goes to show you how time marches on. So that was all great. Other than that, we're all good. There's a bit about Commonwealth Games. I won't talk about that. And I saw the students from Karashki. So I'm happy to put that, and Yanni's happy to talk about it.
Sorry, I just had that question around the Civic Awards Committee, which I
yes.
just sent through. So it was just basically after the election, wasn't aware that we hadn't re-established that committee, but I did, regardless of who's on it or who chairs it, it is actually useful having a smaller committee work through the nominations with staff and then report to the full council. So I put forward a proposal, whether you want to deal with that today or at a later time, but
you're right. Rather than have all of us try and relitigate something for an area, just a smaller committee. Is that what you?
Yeah, it was basically just like we would have a committee that would meet of councillors who were keen to be on it, and we would then make the recommendation to council, which generally went through with a bit of debate, and obviously there would be from time to time some further questioning, but it just made it easier, I think, for staff.
We'll put it on the next mayor's report.
Okay.
Is that right?
Cool.
Okay.
Great.
So,
Thanks.
Good idea. Good idea. Save time. So I'm happy to move this, and I'll put yes, Pauline. Thank you very much. Happy to second. All those in favour? Aye. Thank you. That's carried. So
Looking forward to seeing you in the mosh pit at the Go Live Festival, Mr. Mayor.
are we going to PX or we'll do this one? Notice motion. Right. Well, that's the last thing to go before we go into PX. Okay. So all right. We'll do item 16, the notice of motion. Tyler, would you like to present this notice of motion,
Sure.
please?
I'm going to move to push for the staff office recommended alternative, which is agreeing to progress a trial of up to 2 months of free period products at Tūranga. It's a pilot project that's going to be used to advise the future of it in the long-term plan for us to deliberate on for the future, but it's a simple, pragmatic way ahead. It was a request from Hagley High students when they came at the end of the table, and it was pretty easy that they were really passionate about it, so I wanted to push forward their voice, and this is what we've got.
Okay, and Andre has put his hand up here to second it. Would you questions or what?
Yeah, produces in the staff, in the report.
Okay, fair enough. Any other questions of Tyler? Nope. Any discussion? Right, we'll votendo this one, please, Sam.
Mayor, do you mind if I just quickly say a few
Feel free.
words? Sorry. First of all, I just wanted to really thank Hagley High School students that came to the end of the table, because this is exactly what local government should do, is listen to the voices at the table and actually make action on it. We've seen that before. Just prior to this meeting, where we had our homeless community come, we had an advocate from a disabled community come and talk about what they're going through. And this here obviously sets a precedent that this local government and this council actually listens to their people. When we're looking at the statistics, we see that 12% of secondary students who actually go through these, who actually have periods, are finding it hard to access menstrual products because of cost. Around 95,000 young people were estimated to be unable to afford period products across the country. And what we're seeing is 2,126 schools have opted into free period products. The University of Canterbury have also opted into it. And more than 1.1 million packs have been delivered to those young people across the motu. The libraries, the libraries were requested from those high school students because they practically lived there after school, and they wanted a pragmatic way to move forward. And I remember asking them, what about the pools, what about the other facilities? And they said the libraries are where we go to learn, hang out, and where we go to feel safe. And I think it's up to us to actually want them to stay there. And anybody can get caught slipping. I think all of us have daughters, sisters, mothers who have had those issues in the past. And I'm wanting to just appreciate them for coming in. So the last thing I'd probably say is if we accept that a student shouldn't have to miss school because they can't afford products, it means that they shouldn't have to leave the library because they can't afford that either. And that's me. I really appreciate all of the work that staff did and actually being really good at working with this. And it's been amazing. And libraries, you guys are always amazing. So thank you so much. Kia ora.
Andre, please.
Just to add that there's other councils that are also doing this. So whatever fears you may have appear to be unlikely to come to fruition because it's working successfully elsewhere. But that's the purpose of a trial. Thank you.
Okay, Mel.
Quick Google search, and Scotland has an act that has the Period Products Act where all councils and education providers actually have to provide these for free. I think that's a great way to go. So let's put the onus on the government to help, but let's do our first step first.
Okay, no one online. We'll votendo this, please. Sam, please.
That's open now.
Thank you, mate.
And that's closed.
Closed, yep. It's carried. Thank you very much. Righto. So we will now go into PX, and I'm happy to move going into PX, and David's happy to second it. All of those in favour? Aye, against, thanks, carried. That's cool.